I'm a very informal person, but Captain Beelan, for the camera. But I run the state suicide prevention program. Hired in as a JFHQ SART, which is a sexual assault response coordinator. It was 2010 that the military really focused on resiliency. So with all the programs combined, they developed what we call a R3SP program. That's resiliency risk reduction. And in that, they based it off the RAND report. If you remember what the RAND report was. They came out with the R3SP program marketing plan. And on that marketing plan, it based the biggest issues that the military was facing. And some were concentrating on, some were not. What Michigan here is doing is, because the way we're structured, Michigan has quite a bit of autonomy on what they pick up, how they structure it, who they hire for it, and how they want to run it. In that, we're still in the process of developing our own plan and how we want to run it, but because basically they kind of separated resiliency, that dropped off. So my position became the R2SP program. And so I still kind of oversee the suicide prevention, sexual assault prevention, and within the sexual assault prevention, it includes domestic violence. So basically I kind of oversee the military. What we have set up in our regulations is what we call SIOs. That's suicide intervention officers. And they are located at each of the companies throughout the state, battalions and brigade. Right now, because of the movement, there's not a lot identified, and the roles are very kind of downplayed a little bit as far as the proper training goes. So they're there for referral. They're responsible for gathering all the information on different resources around their area. And they're basically the commander's subject matter experts. So they're the ones basically calling the local centers and stuff like that and working with the VAs. However, with all the other programs, resiliency, we started training MRTs, Master Resiliency Trainer, and RTAs, which are, they basically assist the MRTs in training on coping skills, different how we live our life, and thoughts and behaviors. And that's a big push with the military right now. The others, like another aspect of suicide prevention is buddy-to-buddy, which is peer-to-peer. General Anderson kind of developed that working with Emmett, or U of M, to develop the buddy-to-buddy program. We get mixed feelings about it. I think that's one of the programs that are good for some and not good for others. So it's in a state of flux as how they're running that, because there's buddy ones, there's buddy twos. Buddy twos focus on Vietnam veterans and older veterans as mentors, which is a nice concept, but there's a lot of holes in it, especially if they may not relate to that veteran, because we know that every war is going to be different, every situation is different. And so, in which I'll go into a little bit, but so that's one program. The sexual assault awareness and prevention, that's dealing with victims of sexual assault. And we did a survey, and it's about 80% that have suicide ideation. So it's pretty high, and that's how they're connected. In fact, we had 2 that attempted. So it's a real issue, but you can see the issue where the programs have to be kind of communicating with each other. And I think that's something that we have to work on. And, in my position, my recommendation was that we would work together, even though I'm getting a lot of pushback, because we all have our different programs, different pot of money, so that causes us to want to separate. You do your thing and I do mine. And a lot of people fall through the cracks.
One quick question, Gabe. The sexual assaults, are they against family members of the military, or could it be?
Colleague to colleague?
Yeah.
Yeah, we call it blue on blue.
I'm sorry?
And blue on blue. And that's a military service member on military service member. And that's another briefing in itself, but that we find that it's quite varied. And the full-time Title 10, it's going to be blue on blue a lot of times. And it could be stranger.
It could be what?
Stranger. With the National Guard, you see a lot more acquaintance if it's blue, because it's a smaller culture and they tend to know each other a lot better. Whereas military bases, they come from different areas and they may be what's common at a social gathering. Alcohol is a lot of times involved in fact, one assessment they did about 34, but they said for military it's a lot higher percentage, all the way up to maybe 90%.
Ooh.
So it depends on where you go. So, but it's usually the younger age, from 18 to 30. National Guard, we tend to have an older force, and so they can go up to 35. So.
But it's even occurred, as I remember, in the academies, like the Air Force Academy, several years ago, they had to step in because of the assaults within the cadets in the academy, from upperclassmen. It's a power trip more than it's sexual.
Yeah.
Well, sexual assault is power.
Yeah.
It's power trip anyway,
It's
yeah.
power and control, and that's
Right.
one of the similarities with domestic violence, because it's power and control. With some variances on veterans coming home, that's an issue, which we'll talk about a little bit, but yeah, we're finding different surveys from coming across the pond, we call it, but that sexual assaults are more prominent than what we think. There was the EO office came back with a survey as far as assaults, whether it's fondling or grabbing. That was about 50% of the people went out too. So, and a lot of those were done by foreign nationals. So it's it's a real issue. Although it doesn't tend to affect them that much over there, they deal with it, but it's more of a power and authority coming from our own forces, blue on blue, that it affects them emotionally, trauma. So, but with all the different aspects of all these different programs in that RAND report, in the Archery SP program marketing plan, they came out with about 4 different aspects of health, and that included the physical, the psychological, and they included emotional and the spiritual aspect. We kind of expanded it, and in doing this program, I seen a lot of service members that, one, there was a backlog at the VA. They weren't able to get in. Number 2, stigmatization. And that's why buddy sometimes has problems, because within a close-knit unit, you're not going to report suicide ideation to your buddy, because it will go up the chain of command. And so it's not the type of command where they receive that openly. And so, although they want to help, there may be some overreaction and some wrong decisions